Should your investment approach change after 60? Probably, but it might not be in the way you think. The old rules about automatically becoming more conservative as you age don't always apply anymore, especially when you consider that retirement could easily last 30 years. Welcome back, and if we haven't met, I'm Demetriades, a financial advisor based in Pampa, Texas. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most important decisions you'll face in your 60s. How to think about risk when the game has changed. I'll show you why your age doesn't always equal your risk tolerance, what can happen if you go too conservative, and how to actually balance growth and protection in a way that makes sense for your situation. Oh, and I've got a free retirement risk readiness guide linked in the description for you. It's something you'll want to pair with what we discussed today, so be sure to grab it. So let's start with the idea that so many people get wrong. Your age does not determine your risk capacity or your risk tolerance. I have 65-year-olds who are more aggressive investors than some 45-year-olds I work with. Why? Because risk isn't just about how old you are. It's about what you're trying to accomplish and how much time do you have to get there. Ever hear of the old 60-40 rule? In case you're not familiar with the formula, here's how it works. Subtract your age from 100 to determine your stock percentage. So a 40-year-old would hold 60% stocks and 40% bonds. But that rule doesn't always make sense now because it was created when people retired at 65 and lived to 75. Now you could retire at 62 and live to 92. That means we're playing a whole different ballgame. And it means that you don't necessarily have to cut your risk after 60. That's good news, right? Hit that thumbs up if you're glad to hear that turning 60 doesn't automatically mean taking less risk. Let me give you an example. I have a client, let's call him Robert, who came to me at 63 with $800,000 in his 401k. He wanted to talk about reallocating because he was getting close to retirement. He was thinking ahead. Great instinct. But let's discuss why 60-40 probably wasn't the best bet for him. Robert was in great health and had no debt. His wife had a healthy pension. They had a side business generating passive income. And he expected to retire at 65 with a Social Security payment of around $3,000 a month. They could reasonably expect to live off those income streams alone. Speaking of retirement income, if you're wondering whether you're on track, take my free How Much Do I Need to Retire quiz. The link's in the description. Now, of course, needs can change over time, but with a 30-year time horizon ahead of him, Robert's biggest risk wasn't market volatility. It was not maximizing his money's growth potential over 3 decades. The key is understanding that risk comes in different forms. There's market risk, the chance your investments go down. But there's also inflation risk, longevity risk, and sequence of returns risk. Most people only think about market risk, but the others can be just as dangerous. Let me paint you 2 pictures, and you tell me which scenario concerns you more. Picture 1, playing it too safe. You move everything to CDs and bonds, paying 4 to 5%. Feels safe, right? But here's the reality. At a 3% inflation, your money loses purchasing power every single year. And in 20 years, $500,000 will have the buying power of only about $300,000 today. You didn't lose money on paper, and you can still pay your bills. But your lifestyle slowly shrinks because your money doesn't go as far. Picture 2, going too aggressive. You keep 80% in stocks because you're going for those big long-term gains. But you'll need to start drawing within the first few years of retirement. Then 2008 happens, or 2022, and you watch 30 to 40% of your retirement disappear right when you start to need it. Now you're selling stocks at the bottom to pay your bills, and you never recover. Which scenario keeps you up at night? That's a good indicator of your risk tolerance. Luckily, these are both worst-case scenarios, and good financial planning focuses on what's probable, not just what's possible. So let's talk about how you find a middle ground that reduces risk while still promoting growth. It's key to understand 2 things: when you'll actually need your money and how much risk you'll need to take to reach your goals. Take Robert. He could actually afford significant market risk because his pension and business income were solid. And so it made sense to take some growth risk because he was looking at a 30-year timeline. His middle ground wasn't 60-40. It was probably closer to 75-25 or even 80-20. at least for the first 10 years. Look, I always tell clients, plan ahead, but prepare to be flexible. 60/40 can still work, but you need to understand when it can be your best bet and when it's definitely not. The main problem is that 60/40 fails to account for nuance. It treats everyone the same regardless of their actual situation. So how do you make that distinction? It really comes down to how much stability you need. If you're retiring soon and will start drawing income from your portfolio within the next few years, it's worth considering because a market crash right when you need to start drawing could force you to sell at the worst possible time. Or maybe you're going to need predictability because you're financing major ongoing expenses for yourself or others, like elder care or medical treatments. There are lots of scenarios where it makes sense, but it's probably not your best bet when you have other solid income sources covering most or all of your expenses, like Robert with his pension and business income. If you've got reliable income streams that mean you won't need to touch your portfolio for several years after retiring, you can afford to be more aggressive. And if you're in excellent health with a family history of longevity, you might be looking at 30 plus years of retirement. In that case, being too conservative early on could hurt you in your 80s and 90s when inflation has really compounded. What do you think? Are you going to follow the 60/40 rule or take a different approach? Tell me in the comments. So should your investment approach change after 60? Yes, but not how you think. The real change should be how you consider risk. We've moved away from age-based formulas to strategies that actually match your circumstances, and that's a great thing. Your investment strategy should work for your actual life, not some arbitrary age-based rule. I'm Keith Demetriades. Thanks for joining me today, and if you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to get more information on retirement planning and investment strategies. Real wealth starts with real life.